Here's the news from the Pro Wrestling Weekend. Let's get to it. AEW stars spoke to the media following AEW Full Gear. Here are the top highlights. TBS champion Mercedes Moné, staying mostly in character, said that Chris Statlander had given her hardest match she's had, but that Mercedes is better. When someone asked about Wrestle Dynasty on January 5th, she said you could expect to see her there. Moving on to Big Boom AJ. AJ was positive about his pre-show match, saying that the goal was about making people happy and being a hero. Tony Khan put over the Costco guy, saying he's never seen anything like what he saw doing media with AJ. Every person at Fox News wanted a picture with Big Justice and AJ. He said it was really nice to see a father and son working together and having such big success, calling them marketing geniuses. AJ said he loves it in AEW, and if he's welcomed back, he would bring the boom. Someone asked AJ about a possible match against AEW World Champion Jon Moxley. He said he doesn't think a championship run is likely. In regards to AJ, we do have some updates though. Though he was victorious in his AEW debut, Big Boom AJ didn't make it out of his pro wrestling return unscathed. AEW announced today that AJ suffered a broken foot during his match against QT Marshall on the Full Gear pre-show. The promotion wished him a speedy recovery, and they said they look forward to welcoming him back in the future anytime. Moving on, the AEW Tag Team Champions Private Party, they were asked about performing in front of their hometown. Mark Quinn said it was more pressure as his family is usually hard on him. Isaiah Cassidy said he doesn't notice as he lives in the moment. Moving on to the TNT champion Daniel Garcia. Garcia said winning the TNT championship felt like a bucket list item for him, comparing it to chasing a ghost. He officially announced that he would be competing in the Continental Classic tournament, which starts on Dynamite this Wednesday. Daniel Garcia was asked why the crowds have stayed with him despite losses. Garcia said that people can relate to coming up short. He confirmed that his mother did the voiceover for his promo prior to Saturday's TNT title match. He said he became a fan through his mother, so it is cool for her and his family to see this moment. Ended up answering questions with short, one-sentence answers. They were asked about what it was like to be in a place having so many black champions. Lashley said he wanted to eliminate the word black, saying they have normalized the idea of minorities being champions, so they can just be champions now. Tony Khan. Regarding pay-per-view buys, Tony Khan said he didn't have numbers yet, but he strongly suspected it did better than WrestleDream. Tony Khan said WWE ID would have an effect on the independent scene, but he has been providing independent talent with opportunities for a while, pointing out that the best place for independent talent to go during the pandemic was in AEW, specifically highlighting Daniel Garcia as someone who benefited during that time. Tony Khan only had positive things to say about Big Boom AJ and Big Justice, saying that at Full Gear was the first time he met the Riddler. He hoped they were a gateway for the casual fan, the same way that G.I. Joe and Sergeant Slaughter were a gateway for him to get into pro wrestling. Regarding the recent New York Post article with Jon Moxley, Tony Khan said that Moxley wanting to help younger talent was the greatest thing in the world, and that every time Jon Moxley has been champion, it's been good for the company. He called Moxley one of the most important people in the company. Someone asked about the status of Ricky Starks and Kenny Omega. Tony said to keep an eye in the future and put over Wrestle Dynasty, pointing out that Kenny Omega would be working on that show. He called them both great champions. Regarding November Rain being used, Tony Khan said it would be the first time Guns N' Roses has been properly compensated for using it. He said the music video they did would always be in the AEW library in perpetuity. He'll use it again this week to promote the fallout from Full Gear and the start of the Continental Classic. He was asked about an update on Adam Copeland. Tony Khan said he couldn't wait to have him back in the near future. And speaking of this year's Continental Classic, the full list of participants have been revealed. AEW gave details of the tournament on a selection special stream that aired on Sunday. It will kick off this Wednesday on Dynamite and will conclude at AEW's next pay-per-view, World's End, on December 28th in Orlando. Similar to last year, the 12 wrestlers will be divided into two groups, the Blue League and the Gold League. The winners of both leagues will meet at World's End. This year's entrants include, starting with the Blue League, AEW Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada, Kyle Fletcher, TNT Champion Daniel Garcia, the Beast Mortos, Mark Briscoe, and Shelton Benjamin. Over on the Gold League, Will Ospreay, Juice Robinson, Brody King, Ricochet, AEW Trios Champion Claudio Castagnoli, and Darby Allin. Each match in the Continental Classic will be held under a 20-minute time limit, with everyone banned from ringside. A win is 3 points, a draw will earn both wrestlers 1 point, and a loss is 0 points. Eddie Kingston won the inaugural Continental Classic last year, defeating Bryan Danielson in the finals. His win briefly unified the AEW Continental, Ring of Honor World, and New Japan Strong titles. Moving on to our next story, Bryan Danielson addresses his future in pro wrestling. It's unclear if Bryan Danielson will wrestle again, but he doesn't consider himself retired. He appeared on the Nikki and Brie show recently, more than a month after his full-time career ended with a loss to Jon Moxley at AEW Wrestle Dream. Danielson clarified that he was careful not to use the word retirement in the lead-up to the match, saying, "I was very cautious to not say retirement, except for the match where if I lost, I'd retire. But after that, it was all the end of my full-time wrestling career. But honestly, I feel we don't know what's going to happen with my neck. But it honestly feels like I have a bobblehead." Brie mentioned that Bryan needs neck surgery. Last month, our own Dave Meltzer reported that Danielson hoped to avoid surgery through stem cell treatment. His return to the ring depends on whether he needs surgery and how well the surgery goes if he does. Brie also mentioned that she wanted to create a celebratory post after his last match, but Bryan said he would prefer it if she didn't, saying, "As wrestlers, we're never fully retired." Shortly after Danielson's loss to Moxley at Wrestle Dream, Dave Meltzer provided an update on Danielson's health in the October 21st, 2024 edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, to which he wrote, "As far as what happens when Danielson involves the state of his neck, he is going to have an MRI done to see the damage. He had an MRI done not too long ago and it showed damage all the way down his neck. What happens next depends on if the level of damage is the same as it was or if it has worsened, and if so, by how much. The hope is he won't need surgery and can heal up strong enough with stem cell treatment therapy, but if not, he'll have to undergo surgery. If or when he can return to the ring depends on how well all of this goes." That's a wrap for this episode of The Latest. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful.